Hello and welcome to today's episode of The Art of Feeling Better. And I'm really excited because I have a guest joining me in a second. I will be speaking to the wonderful Liann from the Human Healing Hub. And I've recently joined the Human Healing Hub. And as soon as we had a conversation, I knew that we were just so aligned with the kind of environments and space and resources that we're both trying to create. So I'm excited to be a part of her incredible concept. So we're going to have a little chat about several things today, which are really aligned between both of us. We're kind of giving the title Healing Beyond the Surface. So it's all about community, integration, all of the toxic patterns, including toxic spirituality and toxic positivity, that we find a lot in these modern day healing spaces, and the kind of work we're doing to try and combat that and create really, really supportive spaces. So it's going to be really interesting. We're going to go into a bit of depth about why these conversations are really important right now and are individual and shared experiences, what has inspired us to create our individual platforms, the kind of things that are missing that we believe are missing from the spaces, and how important it is for community and real integration. And as you know, shadow work is my specialist subject. So I'll be talking a lot about my version of that and how it looks. So really, really interesting conversation. I just know you're going to love Leanne. She is absolutely incredible. And I'm going to just tell you a little bit before she jumps on about the kind of things that you can find within the Human Healing Hub. And I will add links on everywhere so that you can check it out for yourself. But there is a multitude of practitioners from all over the world that specialize in various different kinds of healing modalities. But it feels like a really nice, supportive, calm space where us as practitioners support one another as well as the people that we're serving. And you can find all kinds of things in there. It really is like an ecosystem. Things like breathwork specialists, CBT, EFT, EMDR, all of the acronyms, family constellations, internal family systems, IFS, which I love, lots of inner child healing and shadow work, meditation, NLP, psychotherapy, all kinds of really, really important and interesting things are covered. And there's plenty of projects and courses that people are offering. There's some free resources on there. I'm just about to put some of my free resources. Obviously, Liann now has her own podcast, which this is going to be part of. And there's a community chat, there's a live feed, there's all kinds of events. I'm going to be offering I think we're going to do a medicine wheel and a territory mapping kind of workshop that I'll be offering on the Human Healing Hub. So there's just so many cool things on there. And I would really encourage anyone out there who's looking to move out of this space of hustle and overwhelm in their own healing journey where there's so much to consume, it gets a bit tricky to navigate, and find this space where everything's kind of there and you've got that supportive hand holding in a really non-toxic space. So it's something definitely to check out. And I hope you enjoy this very, very special episode. So, Liann, I'm really excited for us to chat today because we've both got lovely audiences building, and we're both having these conversations about what it really means to heal and how sometimes it gets really overwhelming in the space, especially when most people, when they're looking to heal from something, they're automatically overwhelmed, burnt out. And then you add in too much information on top of that, the nervous system's already dysregulated. It becomes really difficult to find what it is you need or even know what it is you need to look for. So and that's one of the reasons that I developed my own platform the way I did, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But when I came across your platform and the Human Healing Hub, I got really excited because I don't think there's anything like it. And I think there really needs to be. So I'm super glad that you've had the foresight to take on such an incredibly complex ecosystem and this space for the people to come. So would you mind just talking a little bit about what is the Human Healing Hub and what was your motivation? Why did you decide that it was something that people needed right now?
First, thank you, Jane, for initiating this conversation as well. I think when we first chatted, it was like an instant connection, and we discovered so many synchronicities between us in our lives, and not only like in our work connected to what we do now, but also other interests. So I think this feels very aligned, and I'm very happy that we're going to have this conversation today. A little about me, but it's really more about the hub, really. So I'm the founder of Human Healing Hub. This is a platform I created a couple of months ago where healers, people who need help, can connect. So this is pretty much a mix of social media, course platform. It has a lot of aspects in it, but the main idea is that people who are interested in healing, personal development, can go find resources, healers they can work with, and of course, community that can support them. This is the main aspect of the hub. And I would say the biggest differentiation. This is like a community of people that go through different paths and they connect together. It's not like you sign up for a course and you get the community of this course, but it's like a community before above else. That's the heart of Human Healing Hub. And of course, we have like two types of participants in the community. You have the healers and the healies. So it's a place that everybody, regardless of their stage, if they're very early on in their healing journey or like they're more experienced and they're looking for other solutions, they can all find it on the platform.
I love it. I love the approach that's so simple that you don't even realize that how important it is or that you need it, that the community aspect is the foundation for you. It's having that shared safe container, that community space that people can then they have the ability to explore and connect and work out what they need if they don't know what they need. And then maybe share their experiences with other people. So I think it's super special, and I'm really interested in the reason why you wanted to do it that way and have that sort of shared community space. What was it? What was it that made you think? Did you just think, well, there's nothing there? It's something that you didn't find, so you thought, well, I'll build it then, because that was kind of my journey. Was I can't find this anywhere, so I'm just going to make it.
Exactly. This was very much it. When I started my journey, I felt very alone and isolated and very overwhelmed. And when you start, you discover some things, then you open this video and then talk about like a different kind of therapy. Then you open the next video, there's this guru talking, no, this is the way to heal. And I think when you're alone in it and you don't have people to talk about it, it could be very isolating, very confusing, and overwhelming. Especially if you don't have people around you that are interested in the sort of kind of thing they haven't experienced, they haven't been on your path, they haven't really dig deep inside yet because everybody, this journey finds them in different stages of their life. For some people could be very early on, for others could be later in life. And especially since because for me it started quite early on, for good or for bad, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I didn't find support in my peers for sure. And later on, after many years, on my journey, therapy, etc., I still didn't find that place where I could go, to have like a proper community where I can find resources, and also wanted to bring a bit more structure to the healing space. This is very ambitious. I have to say that. And I find it still very difficult to do, but Human Healing Hub is a starting point for sure. Having the different modalities, what they are, what they support with. This is already a step forward and a bit organization in the big chaotic world of healing that it could be sometimes.
But I love that. I love the ambition that you want. I think it's the goal that you're focused on rather than the let me word this correctly. It's for me, it feels like it's the overall goal of helping people to find their space and to find their healing tools rather than giving people those tools. That's not the outcome. The outcome is to have a space that people can just come to. So you don't need to have a finished product in mind because who knows what that will be. It's got chance to evolve, hasn't it? Because you know what it needs to be, but you don't yet know how it will look or who's going to be in it. And I think that helps. One of the topics we were going to talk about, because I know we're both very passionate about it, is some of the toxic side of the healing space and the spiritual community, the healing community. And I think when you have a very solid outcome as a practitioner that you want, you kind of lose track of what the people might need that you're trying to serve. So I think you've got that balance beautifully because it's very structured, the information is there, the support is there, but you don't have an outcome that you've pre-decided for people. You've kind of, whatever people need, that is what they will find, and you'll be able to grow that as you get feedback from the healers and the healies. I love the way you put that, the healies.
So I was saying that my goal was never really to have like a proper outcome, because I don't think there's like a final outcome or final destination when you're on your healing journey. For me, the goal was exactly to have a space where people can go connect and find what resonates with them. My goal is really just to give them the information, the structure, and the way and the people they can work with. And then from there they can decide. They can feel what resonates with them, what doesn't. Something that we're building now on Human Healing Hub that will come up later on are like healing paths. So we'll be focusing on specific problems, and we'll be creating programs for this specific issue, combining different modalities and different healers. So in this way, people can explore the different methods and discover what works for them and what doesn't. It's really all about experiment. But my goal is to bring a bit of safety in experimenting and discovering. And this is why the hub was created in the first place. Just to, bring that safe space around where first you are among people that understand you, but also working with healers that are verified. And, for some modalities, there's not really like a certification really, but for those that there are, they need to be certified. So this is also the other aspect of Human Healing Hub, really the safety that it brings to the journey. I remember when I was starting mine, I can give you like a simple example with, for example, eternal family systems. Something that I decided to do on my own. It was like, yes, I understand. I read books, I saw the YouTube videos, I'm on it. Really bad. That one of the biggest traumatizing things I've ever done in my life was with this modality, just because they're groups, they're like steps. They're like, first you need to talk to this part to get access to the other part. I didn't know that. I was going in blindly. I was literally bulldozering through myself and through my journey. So now if I can bring more awareness and help someone else not to do that, I'm very happy to do so. So this is the reason I really created the hub. This is my intention with it.
It's great, and it's that lived experience, and I was talking to somebody the other day when I was doing an interview the other day, and I think you're maybe a similar path to me, that you have it's the lived experience is such a crucial part of it. But you can't have lived experience with nothing else, because you tend to move into a space of bypassing everything, and then you feel like you're healed because you are getting validation from, oh, I'm now a healer because I can share my experience, and that becomes its own problem. But at the same time, for me, in a clinical setting, and I'm not very popular when I say this, if you just have that very clinical one modality textbook with no lived experience, it presents its own problems then, because there's no relatability for starters, and I found within a few spaces, not everything at all, obviously, but within a few spaces, the people desperately looking to find themselves and to find something that will help them, if they find a person who is very structured in one modality and that modality doesn't work for them, they feel like they're a problem. Well, I must be broken then. This didn't fix me, and this is the thing that's meant to fix me. So, having spaces where people and practitioners can say, do you know what? This is what I specialize in. Let's try it. Let's see if it fits for you. If it doesn't, it's just not your tool. Let's pass you on to somebody else and maybe try this. And I think that's so important within this space, because there's a lot of accidental harm probably that comes, I think, from that. And diving in, like you say, lots of people do, and things like parts work and shadow work is my speciality, and I do a little bit of um, parts work based in that, not quite as deep as IFS, but a version of which is connecting very gently with different aspects of yourself. And we do some shamanic soul retrieval, which is quite deep, and various things
Yep.
that you really need to be aware of
Yep.
safety. You have to be aware of safety. You have to begin by resourcing the person properly and making sure that they're aware of every step, really. So it's definitely a process. And if you don't know that, then how would you need that support to be able to lead you and guide you without being prescriptive, I think. And that's the balance, isn't it? Between saying, this is what you do, and if you do this exactly like this, you're going to be cured. That's dangerous because it's not true. It's, here's a process that's really good. It helps a lot of people. Let's guide you, and you find your own way, and the bits that work for you and the bits that don't, we'll tweak it, we'll change it. And it's always has to be person centered, and the person or the client, or however you name them. I think if you are in the right space yourself and you have the right kind of the right knowledge and the right way of coming across with your clients, you can see and you can feel when someone's not quite there with it, or whether they're being re-traumatized, or whether they're not, it's not for them. And that's part of your work as a practitioner, to kind of be the guide, but not the healer. Because in my opinion, there is no such thing as a healer. None of us are healers. We facilitate space for other people to heal themselves. We offer tools and we offer guidance. And for me, it's about holding us, same for you, a safe container. So emotional, psychological safety in a container where the person is held so they can explore themselves and what works for them. I don't heal anybody. Even when I'm doing hands on Reiki, which I used to think, I'm a healer, I'm a guru, I'm a healer, I will heal everybody, because I wanted to help. It wasn't, I
Of
didn't
course, yeah.
think it was from an ego. It was from an ego space, but I didn't think it was. I thought, well, I just want to help. And my role here on earth is as a healer, and I can heal. And it took me a few years to realize it's not all about me. It's nothing to do with me. No, being a healer is not a title for me anymore. It's supporting people to heal. They do the healing.
I agree with you, and I've been actually thinking about that wording on the hub so long. I was thinking, should I rename them guides? Because I agree with you. I think what we call healers are really vessels, for the
Yeah,
healing to go through them, to hold that space. I 100% agree with you. And what you mentioned earlier, you know, I 100% agree. If someone comes and tell me I can fix all of your issues, I can heal you, I don't believe that healer. I genuinely don't. And if he comes to interview for Human Healing Up, I will not accept. To me, this is actually something that I was talking about in a video very recently on TikTok. It's very interesting that we mentioned that, but genuinely, people should be very aware of this and they should stay away, because I don't think any person who is like a healer, like guide, coach, professional, who is like self-respected and respected by the others as well, and it's a really experienced professional, would never say that. Not
I
ever.
agree.
I've worked with many great facilitators. What like my personal therapist, she's one of the most amazing. I can genuinely call her healer. She's amazing. She never once said, I can fix all your problems. She was like, I can help you with this and this. And mind you, she's like specializing in a lot of modalities. Yeah, she's cognitive behavior therapist, but she also does a lot of other modalities. She's certified, very experienced. That moment she said, I can't really help you with that, but I can show you like this healer. I can connect you with this person. They can help you. And I don't think that there should be someone who can heal at all. I don't think that's necessary. I think that everybody should know what they're good at, offer that, and then if it works for the person, it works, and if it doesn't, they go and they find somebody else that does. It's really is about exploration and see what works and what doesn't. In the end of the day, it's that's it. There's not like one miracle pill or person that will come and heal. Plus, also something else that we should mention is that I don't know what's your opinion on that, but for me, healing is ongoing. It's like a spiral that is going upwards and upwards, and you revisit different places, but from different levels. For those, maybe for this specific level, you might need a different approach. It's ongoing journey. It's always changing. For different things, different methods work better. And it's just going with life and seeing what works, what doesn't. Something that worked in the past might work not anymore. So it's really about moving forward with grace, exploring what doesn't, connecting with people. And something that I've noticed on my journey is that what is meant to me always finds me, and I think this applies to everybody.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with everything you say completely. And I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I think we're going to talk about red flags. We already have touched on it, but red flags to look out for, to help people with what to spot potentially. And I think you kind of hit it there. And I love the way you mentioned spiral, because my piece of work at the moment that I'm doing with one-to-one journeys is kind of sacred spiral work. It's exactly that. It's moving through this um, constant spiral, including myself. So anybody in this space who is offering any kind of therapy or coaching or support or healing, I think it's important for us to recognize that we're also humans on that journey, and we also are on our own spiral. We may have experienced things that give us some wisdom and tools and knowledge that we can then pass on. but there is no point where you say, "Oh, I've completed life on expert level now. I've done everything. I'm the guru and just I'll tell you everything." That is absolute spiritual bypassing, and it's very from a very wounded place of, I really need to be accepted and validated. So please tell me how, come to me and I'm not going to look at any of my stuff. I'm just going to heal everybody else. That's the biggest red flag for me. Anybody who's kind of coming across that way, I think has some wounds to tend to and needs to kind of go back into their own self development before they can safely support others. And I think from my perspective, I talk a lot about my experiences and burnout especially. I'm moving into a space where, as you know, I've worked with lots of people over many years, different demographics, all ages, all genders. I've worked in some very difficult, hard to reach spaces, trauma spaces, which has given me a lot of experience, a lot of wisdom. And at the moment, I'm really connecting in with women, and women my kind of age, 40 plus, who have experienced burnout and identity crisis. It's a real focus point for me at the moment. But I'm still in there, right? I'm still in that space. So I'm as honest and authentic as I can, that if I have to tap out at some point to go and do another little round of my own kind of self reflection and development and healing, I'll always be honest about that. And I won't try and show up um, if I shouldn't be showing up to do a piece of work, right? And that's one of the reasons that I wanted to create Mojo School as lots of tools and resources that are pre-recorded, pathways and mini courses and bite-sized videos and tools and interviews and the podcast. I wanted to have this space that was there, 24-hour accessible, coming from the right energetic space, produced in a good space and aligned, so that there's always going to be a resource. And I always have the ability to step away, and if I need to, because people still have what they need, and I can show up for lives and workshops and sessions when I'm in a good place and I can be really productive and effective and helpful. But I've still got my boundaries in place and I can manage my own burnout, my own health, my own, a lot of people that I work with at the moment are coaches and therapists and people in the I call them the helping professions, who are absolutely burnt out, who have zero work-life balance, who are and I've been there. I know what that's like because it's, that full-on response. I must, put everybody else first. So it's trying to support the healers to heal, the people who are in that space, giving them the support as well, and then being able to take it for yourself when you need it. And it's difficult. Being a human is really tough, especially right now. It's not easy. But if we can have these kind of conversations and all be able to support and signpost rather than this is my thing, I'm doing it, nobody else has had this, these are my people, these are my clients, and I will not share them with anybody else. That feels really uncomfortable to me because, as you've said, what I do might not suit somebody else. And I'd love to be able to say, do you know what? I don't think this is for you, but I know someone really cool over there who I think you'll fit brilliantly with, and they have this modality that I don't know. And to be able to have those conversations and partnerships without being defensive, and it's difficult because we're all human beings, but we need to, especially now, we have to move into this collaborative, community focused um, collective healing space, I would say, where everybody is part of that. The people who are offering tools and resources and the people accepting the tools, and we're all in a space of healing and we're all supporting each other. So I think it's great. Are there any other red flags that you can think of that you've experienced or that you're seeing with your community and with your platform? Anything that we can kind of look out for?
Um, okay. I can talk also from my journey, some things that I
Yeah.
found like suspicious when I was looking, for example, for my own. First, I would say pricing is one thing. It's a bit controversial maybe, but I do think that healers who undercharge, I know they now from my experience, I know they have some unresolved things up there.
Yep.
People who are not able to set boundaries, especially when it comes to therapists, because I feel like for them it's very difficult, especially for the new therapist. Because one of my best friends, she's actually a new cognitive behavioral therapist, and I know how difficult for her is to, because you have this person crying in front of you, and you're like, how do I send them out? Like I feel like horrible. But as a healer, I think you definitely need to have those boundaries. Um, you need to know your worth. You need to know what you provide. You need to know what the right price for that is, and you need to say, okay, this time to this time we work together. Outside of this, you know. But those are maybe things that people discover once they already sign up for the service. I'm thinking for things that are before that that they can look out for. I would say marketing language is also something that can kind of tell you what's going on there. I personally don't like very aggressive marketing language, pressure techniques that are a bit more pushy than they should be. I personally don't like that, but I'm also a projector in human design. So I'm used to like,
Ah,
having to track things that I don't go and chase things. So that's why maybe I also have this reason to look through things. But this is also something I'm mindful of. The marketing, especially if it doesn't feel authentic, especially for some specific practices, I feel like aggressive marketing is not the way to go. 100%. Also, just the language. For me, if it's very vague, not specific, I think a healer who knows what they're offering and what the process does for the person and what the outcome of the process is, they know exactly how to word it and how to put it. Of course, there are people, I mean, a big part of the clients with Human Healing Hub for the healers are exactly people who are not that good in marketing. They're not that good at business side. So there are people like this, but in general, even they manage to put their right off with the right words. It might be not perfectly from a marketing and business point of view, but they know what their process does. And if I see that it's something very vague, uh, nothing specific, doesn't explain anything, I usually just don't trust that.
mm, that's a great point. That's a really good point. It's so difficult, isn't it? It's such a minefield because when you're in a space where you are kind of reaching out, generally speaking, you're feeling quite desperate at the point you want to actually try and find something to help you. You're suffering, right? So that's why you're looking for something. So then it's very difficult because you're quite vulnerable you're vulnerable to the aggressive marketing. Someone says, "Do this and I'll solve all your problems. You need me. Get on this right now." You think, "Oh, okay, if that's what I need." And you kind of, and the nervous system does this. You lose that rational thinking and that ability to really discern. And by the same token, if someone's a little wishy-washy and not very specific, it's just as confusing because you think, well, is this right? Should I don't know what they do. How do I find out more? And again, it adds to the overwhelm. But so I think you're right. The word you said then, authenticity, I think has been a big journey for me to really move into that authentic voice for me. And I could only do that once I'd done another round of healing because I've been doing this for years and I had, different versions of me and different versions of what I offer. And every time I go back into a loop, I think, oh, okay, that came from a place of a wound there, and I spent so many years with the low pricing. I can't even tell you how difficult it was as a people pleaser. That really strong fawn response. So, and you'll be able to see a lot of my videos, my books coming out. I go into so much detail about my journey from childhood and just to try and share that relatable content from my experience, why I did the things I did, how that translated into adulthood, the hustle mentality, the burnout, all of those things came from these patterns. And it's what led me to learn about neuroscience and human behavior and the modalities that I've trained in. But one of the big things for me was pricing, and I was part of a conversation recently, and this is after I kind of solved that part of my riddle, and I get much better at my price point and valuing my worth. And it still triggered me, and I thought, well, I still feel it in my body, even though I know what I'm doing. And I was helping a group of ladies. We were doing a project around confidence and self-esteem and running your own small business. And there were women who did all kinds of different things. Some were in the healing space, some were crafters, and they made things and sold them. And so a really wide demographic. And there were two ladies who were in the healing space, and they were Reiki practitioners. And we were chatting because I'm also, that's one of my sort of background modalities. And they had this conversation that really triggered me because they said, I think it's disgusting when people charge. We are healers. We're supposed to be. They had that such wounding of you can't charge for being a good person because that belief system that if you have the ability to heal, you should be doing it for free. And, if you go back into Reiki training, it didn't work because people kept coming back for more because there wasn't that exchange, and there was wounding on both sides there. So it's very
Yeah.
interesting dynamic with just specifically with healer. I don't like the word, but the healer community, that's how we title ourselves with that community because, and I get it because I still struggle with it, that belief that if you're a good person, you just want to help, it feels really unethical if you are still wounded to make people pay for this. But then when you start to realize that your time and your health and your energy has value and you can't pour from an empty cup, and if you're showing up from a depleted, wounded space and not valuing yourself, you shouldn't be doing this work because it's all, it's not energetically aligned, it's not coming from the right space. But when you're operating from those wounded patterns, it's so hard to break through and to actually say, no, this is what this costs. This is how much time I'll be with you. This is my skills, my expertise, and this is what you're going to feel like. Hopefully, this is what we're planning to be able to serve you and help you with and do. These are the outcomes. Can you really put a price on that? It certainly shouldn't be free because people will go and pay loads of money to go and get blackout drunk in a bar to try and mask their pain. Or maybe, when I used it in my previous career many, many years ago, makeup, hair, salon, beauty stuff, paying hundreds of pounds to try and mask some kind of feeling and feel better. So why not actual deep rooted modalities that actually will help properly from the inside? Why should they not be a chargeable service? It's so interesting, and I do see from both sides. You want to be a good person, just give it for free. Why wouldn't you? Let's heal the world because we shouldn't have, money's wicked. We shouldn't need to, but we do. We have to live, right? We have to resource ourselves. It's not a hobby. It's not a hobby for me, certainly.
Exactly. I think a lot of those thoughts and blockages when it comes to money are coming from the environment that we grow up, our families, the vision of elder generations around this. This is like where everything really roots in. But what you mentioned, I'm a good person, so I shouldn't be charging. I'm sorry, but all the people that are providing service, I'm sure the majority of them are also good people. Like the carpenter is a good
Right?
person. This doesn't mean that he has to do it for free.
Right.
And the healing, we give it that more spiritual aspect and facade, which is, of course, it's great to be able to help someone, but they're energetic laws, and you know them very well. And if you break that law, you don't give them service. It doesn't do them well when you don't
Yeah.
charge. There's like
Yeah.
a difference in the balance, and it's a balance, and this is karma. I know
Yes.
that not everybody believes in that. I know for some this might be woo, but that's the reality of it. If
Yep.
they're like those cosmic laws that they're operating at all time, regardless if you believe in them, if you don't believe in them, they're there, and everybody can feel it. Especially, for example, when you're in a relationship, you can feel when there's like this balance. It's the same thing when you're with a healer, with a client. When you have a service that is so great and you undercharge it, there's this resentment that will start building inside of you. There are
Mhm.
consequences to that. Also, if I'm a client and I don't pay enough for a service that I feel like energetically, deep down in my core, I know I should be paying more for it. There will be this guilt. There will be this feeling that there will be unpleasantness in both of us. So there's no point. If I cannot afford a certain healer, because especially, I mean, when I started my journey, I was like 19. I was student. It was my first year. It was like student year. It was horrible. From financial point of
Yeah.
view. And then we have all those amazing healers that I would have loved to work with, but I knew I couldn't afford it. And I'm not someone who would go into thousands of dollars in debt just to do a certain program. There's this gap that is struggling with. And this is the gap between, especially for like more expensive programs. Those are like mentorships that go on for like, half a year, a year. Those usually are very expensive. Some of them are very effective, 100%, I agree, but they come with a certain price. And that is, how do you convince the person, to take that leap of faith with you
Yeah.
as well? A lot of people don't do that, and then they find another healers. There's nothing bad to work with like a healer who doesn't charge as much, but you have to be prepared that probably the service that you will get, the insights, the work, probably won't be on the same level. And that's okay. You just, you decide for yourself what you're ready to invest, how you want to proceed, but you cannot pay $100 and expect the service for 1,000. That's not how reality works.
It's so true, and it is absolutely energy everything is energy. We've had this conversation, and I say this all the time. Everyone that will listen to me, everything is energy. Every exchange is energetic, so it has to be balanced. And for those who, like you say, not everybody believes in karma in its standard concept of karma. And if you look at Wicca, the threefold law, a lot of people don't believe a lot of these things. But in terms of energy, there is always an exchange. However you want to title it, you cannot deny these universal laws that there is an exchange. And somebody said to me once years ago, and I use that phrase quite a lot, is balancing the books. Like you balance your checkbook, you balance your account, you have to balance your books. Whatever energy you all get, you have to be able to receive and give, and you have to be able to. And for me, that's my healing journey, is to be as balanced as I possibly can. That's it for me. It's the boundaries come with that. My energy, my finance, my energy, my time, my health, everything, the way I parent, the way I run my business, just as balanced as I can. And I used to do everything from a place of depletion because I thought that that made me a good person, and
Yeah.
somebody would accept me one day and I could prove myself. You know how this works. This is just what everybody's experiencing. And I went to the real serious lengths of burnout to try and do that. Just complete depletion. Wanted to be superwoman, wanted to prove that I could just run on empty. I don't know what medal I thought I was going to win, but I didn't win one. I just got some hospital visits instead. But that was a place that I spent many, many years. Put yourself at the end of the line, at the back of the list. And I used to, I would undercharge so much for a lot of services that felt that I shouldn't be charging for until I did the inner work. And I think when I've heard these conversations and this interaction that I mentioned, it's not the first time I hear it quite a lot. And it's interesting because when I hear it, it usually is when I'm in a space of people who are absolutely burned out. That's why I'm there, because they are doing too much. They are not receiving enough. They are doing absolutely everything for everybody. They never take any time for their own self-care. They may run a full-time job whilst looking after a family, and then trying to run another full-time job being a therapist practitioner, because they want to undercharge there, so they have to do too much. And then you kind of look at it and think, but that's the problem. The problem is the value isn't where it should be, and the energy exchange isn't there, and it's just, yeah, totally misaligned and unbalanced. But it's a piece of work I think all of us have to do, and I think especially women have a hard time with this because we have, in our very nature, the being of service and caring and looking after other people. It kind of comes instinctively, naturally, that feminine energy. So for me, the piece of work for us to do, and why I'm drawn to working with women at the moment, is to support that process, balancing the feminine and masculine, and being able to honor and value yourself first, which is so alien
Absolutely.
when you're in that kind of fawn response program forever. If someone tells you this, you have to put yourself first. It's You just think it can't happen. I'm not doing that. But when you step into that space safely and you work through the process, you can kind of look back and think, wow, what a difference when you can resource yourself, put your boundaries in place, put your needs first, you overflow and you have spare. You can you can't pour from an empty cup, is what they say. And it's very true. You need to be in a space of overflow so that you have more to give to your community, and you can keep yourself safe, and, keep your nervous system in balance and alignment. And then you can show up. You really can show up for your people then. But it's a constant piece of work, and we're all constantly on that process. And like you say, going around in spirals as we have experiences. We may need to dip back in and find another tool, or have a little, put your oxygen mask on, and then you can, go back out and do some more aligned work. But it is a process, and I think it's something that's needed so much right now. So it's really exciting that more people are doing this kind of work, I think, and
Yeah.
more people
100%.
we're finding each other. I was on a podcast last week with a lady in New York. She said the same thing. She's got her community, and we're finding each other and connecting in, which it helps with that isolation that you mentioned at the beginning, because it can be very lonely, both when you're on your healing journey yourself, but also when you're trying to support others. It's the isolation is very, very difficult. So community is key. You've got it spot on there, I think, for sure. Um, is there anything else that we wanted to touch on that was specifically? I know we really wanted to speak about community being so super important. What about the whole, we're both very passionate about nervous system regulation and healing coming from a grounded place rather than
Yeah.
that spiritual bypassing without doing, roots before fruits. I always say we have to work on a balance again, have to make sure you embody everything. And that's messy sometimes. That's the message I'd like to give. It's not, if you see somebody that would promote the, and I don't want to be disrespectful now because it's going to come across disrespectful to anybody who does kind of work in that way. If everything's that toxic positivity, everything's pure, brilliant, white, shiny, lovely, come over here and do this, and you're going to experience what we do over here. And then the aesthetic looks beautiful, the imagery looks great, maybe the branding's perfect. That's a misconception that you can start from complete on the floor overwhelm, wounded patterns, and just jump there because somebody said that you can do that. There's a whole process of really going into yourself and unpicking the threads, and the safety has to be there, and you might stop for a while and then you might go back in and then out, and it's a messy process, but it's essential, I think, for us to be able to access these kind of work. Shadow work for me is my absolute specialism, and I didn't realize that for a long time because I just wanted people to feel good. So I wanted to be the love and light, everything's great. But in order to do that, I was always dipping down and doing the messy shadow work. So I embrace that now. And I say to people, that's my main thing is shadow integration, is shining a light on the messy stuff and supporting people to weed out some of that complex, difficult stuff. You have to feel the feels, and people don't want to feel the feels. They want to repress and distract and jump over them and get to this lovely, let's sit in a white room on in a lotus position on a cloud and everything's great. But it doesn't it doesn't work like that. What's your perspective on?
No, I wish it did. It doesn't. But something that you said that they don't want to do the work and don't want to feel. I think some of them don't even know. I know I didn't know how to sit down with my feelings and to process them, because I mean everybody can do it through their own way. They cannot be despised, but there's like a process. Sitting with your feelings, breathing through them. This is something that someone has to teach you how to do it. And when your parents and their parents and nobody back in the generations really had that knowledge, it was not passed on. That, for example, my mom, like, how could she teach me something that she never taught herself? So it's, you know you have to start somewhere, and it's one thing not wanting to feel once you already have the knowledge. It's another thing not having it. And I think a lot of people don't know how to sit with their feelings. They don't know how to regulate. They don't know those basic stuff. So that's why one of the things that as you know, on the Human Healing Hub, we want to create those free resources so people can
Yeah.
go and like explore some of those things by their own. And thank you so much also for contributing to those. Um, we need to start with the basics. People to learn how to do those small processes, like how to meditate, how to go through a feeling. Those are like very basic stuff that for people who are already in the healing space, they're like, what do you mean they don't know how to feel? But as someone who's coming outside of that healing space and came in later on, I can tell you a lot of people that don't know how to do that because nobody teaches us how to do it. They teach us in school about like history that we probably will never use. We won't remember, like mathematics that half of them never use in my life ever again, but nobody teaches me how to sit with my feeling, how to regulate. And those are important things. And there's a lot of work to be done there for sure for that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you've got to feel it to
Um,
heal it. You've
yeah.
got to feel it to heal it.
But it comes with a lot of patience. It comes with a lot of trials. I personally did a lot of family constellations work, which is probably one of the most challenging work I've ever done in general out there. Working with your father, with your mother, the family, the ancestors.
Yeah.
It's such a deep and such a hard work, especially if you have like stronger wounds. Because I personally had like wounds around both of my parents. So this is extra. If it's one, easier. When it's two, it gets even messier. But I can definitely say that this modality changed my life completely. Everything came after it I found my partner after I did this work. I started the hub after this work. So many things changed in my life after it, but it's so difficult and it's so messy. And also something that people don't understand. I think a lot of people don't know what it means to do the work. When you say, okay, you do the work, but what does it mean? It means, the visualizations, the meditations, the exercise, the dig deeper, the journaling, especially with shadow work. Shadow work is amazing. Shadow work done well is like one of the best tools out there for sure. But it's painful. And it also has its curves that it throws at you. Maybe it's very easy to go into the ego through this
Yeah,
kind of work because this is the safe space. And especially if you don't know how to bring safety in your body before the process, during the process, it's very difficult. And that's why I encourage for those kind of modalities that it's very important to work with a professional first, especially shadow work. I know shadow work because there's so much information out there. People are like, oh yeah, I can do it by myself. For deep, deep things, definitely not. You need to have someone there who can oversees, the session, the journey, can pull you if it's needed, can support. I personally, especially when I was trying to learn to go through my feelings, feel my feelings, etc., there was this panic that was coming in, especially also working with shadow work, internal family systems. When you're very new to the process and you don't know what you're doing and there's no guidance around you, it's so easy to get into the panic state and re-traumatize yourself. Um, and I think only people who actually have done the work and been through that can really understand what we mean by that, because it can make things actually worse.
absolutely. And I think that's another thing to touch on because it's the same with all kinds of therapy. There's a lot of evidence now around talking therapy, which is amazing for a lot of people. Didn't really work for me, but just cognitively talking and going through the same experience again and again and again without shifting anything through the body and without any somatic support, it does not, it just re traumatizes. It just makes you go back over. And the cellular memory, it lives in your body until you learn how to metabolize and move it through. So for me, it's a whole ecosystem and toolkit that you need. So, for example, I look family constellations, internal family systems, shadow work, my holy trio. I think that's just you can blend a lot of those tools in together very gently. But I won't work with anybody in that space until we've resourced. We build a whole toolkit first. We have to understand the window of tolerance, and we have to make sure we know how to ground, how to breathe, what we're comfortable with. There has to be a whole process of building. I call it my resource campfire because we use lots of analogies in my work. But we build our campfire and our toolkit first before we even think about anything else, so that we have something to come back to and we can build safety in the body. And I think that is the key that you mentioned, that there's so much information out there. You can read the books, there's loads of courses. I mean, my whole platform's courses, 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 and courses. But I think we have so much information overload, and you can have all of the top down stuff, all the cognitive stuff. You can understand all of these things and you can intellectualize them. And, oh, this has come from there. And that's, come from this part of my, ancestry. And this is why I behave like this. And CBT is one of my, certified modalities. I think that's wonderful, but it's only a small part of the puzzle for me, because you have to then, well, so what? Now I understand it. I still feel like shit. What am I going to do next? I have to find a way to not feel this way. The understanding is
Yeah,
only part of it, and that's why my medicine wheel framework for me is crucial, because we start off with the mindset stuff and the knowledge, but then we move to somatics and we move to the body and we build the container to help resource while we're doing this work. Then we go to the emotional space where we touch on the sort of shadow side, so that we've got the tools already. We've got the knowledge, we've got the tools. We start to move things through a little bit, and then we can move to the final quarter around that more spiritual, energetic stuff. We move things through and we look at real identity, authenticity, passion, purpose, who you are behind all the labels. But you can't jump to the end. You can't jump to
no,
the end. You have to be able to build the foundations first, and you work around it in a process. But the body keeps everything, and the energetic body, not just the physical body, the energetic body stores these things. So you can't think your way out of that. And that's the biggest issue I think we have with this global mental health crisis, that we can't think our way out. We have to be able to use the body and the energy, and as a whole system, I think.
100%. circling back to what you mentioned earlier about this toxic positivity, that is something that I definitely would like to touch on as well later on. It's just, how can I put it in the right words? I would just say it's delusional. Um,
That's a good
and
way. That's a good way.
it's not real. It's like, first, I don't think there's ever anyone who is like really truly happy all the time. Like, this is a state, of course, that you have to tap into, but it's not. It's very difficult to keep that and maintain, and it's not healthy if you're not facing your demons. Is like such a common expression which I don't personally like, but yes, let's call them like this for the sake of it. You can't move forward. You'll be kept in loop. Something that people don't understand about traumas is that those traumas created certain programs in our subconscious, and we're operating on those programs all the time. And you can't have that program that tells you that you're not worth it of love, you're not worthy of money. Like, a lot of actually practitioners have that, especially like junior ones. I even had it with when I was creating the hub. Like, now I'm building, the premium plan. There will be payments and stuff. And my nervous, like my body was like, hold on, we're doing that, you know? Yeah. Um, which is a natural process, and I think everybody goes through it, the imposter syndrome. Also because I'm quite relevant, like young, for like founding something like this, and there's some stereotypes in that space which I need to fight every now and then. Um, but you need to change those. You need to work on those, and this is like a constant work. What we were talking about earlier about um, shadow work, etc. This is a process. This is not something you do once. Taking ayahuasca once won't change your life. You need to integrate. You need to make it practice. You need to do some somatic work, do some yoga, do some Pilates, something breath work, somatic breath work is amazing. I love it so much.
Yeah.
There's so many amazing tools, modalities, like practices that you can do out there. Everything lives in the body. Body keeps the score. You have to work through those things, and this toxic positivity, social media plays such a big role in it as well. Um, Everybody who is trying to seem like very uplifting, very supportive, yeah, it's just too much. We're not going in the right direction with it. Is misleading. That's the reality of it.
Yeah. That's a really good way to put it. It is misleading. And I don't think people all the time are intentionally misleading. I think they get caught up in the wave and they believe that because at the time they are riding the positive wave and everything's hashtagable and everything's that, and you feel great when you're hitting. When I talk in terms of energy, if you look at like the energetic scale, I've got a version of
Yeah,
this where we look at the emotional scale and the resonance. If you're up there and you're having a day where everything is like vibey high, and you feel great and your body feels great, and you think, I've cracked it. This is it. This is what people need to hear. So people might, do their social media on that day where they genuinely believe, they're not trying to mislead. Well, people need to understand that this is a moment in time where you feel great, and we shouldn't be chasing the light, is the point. And I keep going back into shadow terminology, but in the West, we seem to have this fixation with everything has to be perfect all the time. We just chase the light. And in other cultures, it's a journey, and there's light and there's dark, and there's good and there's bad, and there's balance, and you explore and you experience, and you really are grateful for the moments where you feel joy and happiness and peace. But you don't expect them to last, and you know that around the corner there might be a challenging situation, and that's where you learn and grow, because you can't learn and grow unless you have these experiences. And your body's intelligence, as you mentioned, for me the body is everything. And that Bessel van der Kolk, The Body Keeps the Score, is one of my favorite books. One of my courses is called The Body Knows, and it's all around the science behind it, how things are stored and how it works, and then some practical application of breath work and all kinds of different things to help move. And I think for what I teach a lot of now, and I've got some really great clients at the moment doing my one-to-one stuff, and we use something called Voxer. I don't know if you've come across it, voice notes. Because my boundaries, I said I won't be answering messages at this time. You have a breakthrough at midnight. I'm not. I used to be messaging everybody day and night. I'll accept calls whenever. Nuh-uh, not anymore.
no,
These are the times. These are the times that we can work together. But I have
good.
Voxer as a voice note app. So if you need to put something in there, you can do your voice notes, and I'll get to it in working time. And it's lovely because I get to the voice notes and I have this, oh my goodness, I just had this experience. my body felt awful, but they're so excited by it because they understand what's happening. And especially when we've started to do a little bit of parts work, because I have my own version of that now. And, they'll understand that this part of me literally came up and was really defensive. And, but I recognized it and I realized that this was just a bit of protection or something that was coming up from this wound or that part. And they respond so differently, but it's because they understood what their body was telling them at the time. And they had a set of tools to be able to go, oh, hang on, my nervous system is doing something. My body is really reacting. What does this mean? Where has it come from? What's the message? What's the intelligence? How can I minimize the sensation because it doesn't feel very pleasant? So I'll use my breath if it works, or I'll do this, or I'll go and get my bare feet on the ground, or I'll do a few stretches, or whatever it might be that there's preferred tool. And then I can sit with it and I can think, oh, let's manage this now and work through the process and reflect and journal and maybe have a different conversation or a different outcome because they're listening to their body. They're not trying to mask a symptom because it feels unpleasant. They're recognizing, oh, okay, there's a learning opportunity here. And I think when you can move into that space, life just becomes better anyway, because you're not just trying to chase everything is that chasing the light and chasing all the high stuff. You stop doing that and you just enjoy life, and everything that you experience becomes, you have a lot of gratitude for it, and it all becomes part of the tapestry, doesn't it? But we do see so much online on socials, especially with the new generation coming up. I'm really keen to teach a lot of this stuff to the newer people moving into these healing spaces, because I think you're right. I don't think they realize just how much damage is coming through from that belief that we just be happy, just think positively. You don't need any bad stuff. That's just, like you say, it's delusional. That's not how life works. And the sooner we accept that, it's all about acceptance, isn't it? As soon as we accept that sometimes we're going to feel crappy, sometimes things are going to happen that take our feet from under us. But we've got community, we've got tools, we understand the language of our body, we can replenish our energy, and around the corner is going to be a really beautiful time that we love, and we'll have some good learning. We have to teach those skills, and they have to be taught in schools. I really believe that, but I can't see that happening very soon. But I would love to see that on the curriculum. You mentioned it before, we fundamentally, before any algebra or history or anything else, teaching emotional literacy and how to work with your body's signals, and how to resource yourself, how to have empathy, not just, and how to also have self-compassion. Those things have to come first, and then teach whatever you want after those are in place. It's the roots of being human, isn't it?
100%. And also when you go on that journey, and you start having those aha moments when you're like, oh, you know, I saw that pattern repeating, but I stopped it before that. And that's so thrilling. But there comes a time where you might not be able to stop the pattern. You might not be able to recognize it.
Yeah.
So we have to remember it's a journey. And something else that I also want to balance out, about not only thinking only positively, there's also the other side of it. I come from Eastern Europe, where everything is very negative.
Mm.
Everybody's super pessimistic. We have those all kind of superstitions that all bad things will happen if you put the salt in a certain way. It's crazy. I understand, where all of this darkness is coming from. The Balkans and Eastern Europe didn't have it easy in the last years, for sure. But especially as someone who grew up there, I can tell you also, look also for the positive. Expect positive things to happen. But just keep in mind that they may not be always positive. There might be some rough patches that you're going to hit. It's just a balance. But overall, I would definitely choose expecting the good thing, having that positive outlook, than, being the negative one any day. I would personally prefer to be more delusional and then to be pessimistic. But the key is in the balance.
We keep saying that, don't we? Balance in everything. It's all about balance. And I think it's that resilience. When you have the tools and the knowledge and the support and the community, and you have that level of resilience, it becomes easier to navigate. And I think, I'm a naturally optimistic person. So I have this tendency to be on the other side and to if I hadn't been on the journey I've been on, and if I didn't do the work I do, I would be this toxic positivity. It's great, everything's great because I just that's how I feel. So I always have to sort of check myself, but it's being realistic, realistically optimistic, maybe, look for the good things. There's amazing beauty and there's great things everywhere. You can find good things every day. For me, that's not toxic positivity to me. Having your days where even if you're having a really bad time, just find something to be grateful for, whether it's food or having a roof over your head if you have one, or having a connection with somebody, and or just looking at a beautiful, piece of nature. I think you can always find something positive, but it's when you expect only positive things to happen and you share the belief that it just be positive and everything will be great. For me, that's the toxic side of it. And I think you're right. It's making sure that you don't go the other way and think, well, I don't want to be positive all the time. So I'm just going to think the worst of everything. And then that, depression really kind of roots itself in. It's, it is balance. It's being able to be resilient enough to manage and understand yourself when things aren't great, and being realistic with what you can do, and that it won't last forever and you need to dig deep maybe, and really experiencing it so that you don't lock it in, really experiencing that full spectrum, and then being able to reflect on it afterwards and process it. And then that allows you the bandwidth to be able to enjoy the good things that are around the corner and really make the most and experience the good stuff. And everybody's version of that will be different, right? So you might think that, that one person is being super, super too optimistic for me. And the other person might think, well, yes, that's the way I do things. So it's having that understanding that everybody's version of that will look a little bit different. But what we are responsible for portraying in this space as, again, we have to use the word healers because there is nothing else to describe it. As healers, the responsibility we have with the kind of language we use and the kind of content we put out is much bigger than people realize, because sometimes it's a bit of an aesthetic fad. I think people think, oh, I like the way that looks, and it makes me feel good when I record that content, and I feel all warm and fuzzy for a bit when I put it on my Instagram, and that's lovely. But then you have to think about what you're doing on your platform, and that level of responsibility that people have to understand that that's not real. And I think for me, fashion, I spent a long time in the fashion and beauty industry. It's the same thing for me. It's projecting something out which makes money, looks great.
Yeah.
It's not grounded in reality at all. It was the same thing for me. It's not real. We don't all look like that all the time. It's all smoke and mirrors, and it's 2 minutes of a beautiful picture on a runway, or it's 2 minutes of somebody meditating really vibey high. That's just a moment in time. It doesn't stay. You have to be able to experience all of the things and understand that, I think.
100%. You mentioned something very interesting about the responsibility of the healers. And I do think that, of course, the client makes their choice. We have to be conscious. We have to have critical thinking. But also, as a practitioner, as a healer, you still have somewhat kind of responsibility. And we talked about people who undercharge, but there are those people who also overcharge. And they're like energetic consequences for them as well.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
I agree.
everything has everything has its value, and I think everybody internally feels it. You can maybe not, but I think the majority, especially of healers, especially people who are more intuitive, because healers usually have very well developed intuition. They're well connected to themselves, to the source, whatever they believe in. So it's good to have responsibility, 100%. And also something that we talked about earlier, starting, coming full circle, with the red flags. People should be mindful that there's a certain extent that those practices can help with. And for example, there are a lot of cases where people who have fourth stage cancer or something like this, there you have to be mindful that the Reiki session probably will not heal your cancer. And I know there are a lot of people who unfortunately are using this hope, this last resort of people to profit. And I think this is very ugly. And I think there's a really bad karma coming for them that way. So I would encourage, if there's any new practitioners that are listening to this, healers, don't do that. Just
Just
if you
not.
feel like you can't charge enough yet for what you want, work more. Work on yourself, develop yourself, bring new skills with new clients, more experience. It will come. Eventually, it will come. Saying that, it's the same thing for me, for Human Healing Hub. It's still very early months, early stages. So I feel it in myself. I can't charge something insanely expensive, and I don't want to because I know my product it doesn't equal. And you just find that inner calibration, what feels right in your soul, in your gut. You feel it. You know this. Okay, this is the right price. And sometimes when you're not, you have that imposter syndrome, when it's not quite there yet, you feel that uncomfortable feeling, but that's okay. Breathe through that uncomfortable feeling and move through it anyway. And this is with everything in life, something that I've learned. Even if it feels uncomfortable, this doesn't mean you have to stop. You breathe through it and you move forward and you go beyond the fear. The fear, yeah, it shows up, but it doesn't mean you have to stop.
Yeah, I love that. I totally agree, and I think something that I've been talking about quite a lot lately as well, just from my own reflections as well, is the discernment. And again, your body will tell you, it's your body's intelligence, it's discernment. And I think you can get confused if you don't sit with things properly and really use your own intuition and discernment. You can think, well, that doesn't feel right in my body, so I'm not going to do it. Like you said, when something feels comfortable, it's a good way to discern it. And I do exactly the same thing. But I think sometimes when there's a wound at play, for example, you might have a mother wound or a father wound or a combination that's telling you you're not good enough and you shouldn't be charging anything and nobody will buy your services and the imposter syndrome comes in and that feels bad in your body. That doesn't mean you say, "Oh no, well, I shouldn't be doing it then," because that's correct. That's an incorrect pattern. So I think when you really sit with that and you try and assess and you think, "Oh, this feeling is interesting. Let's breathe into it. Let's just see if we can move it through." And then you start to assess and you think, "Is that coming from a place? Is this coming from a real place or a distorted place? Does it feel bad because actually it's bad? It's not the right way and my intuition's saying, "No, you need to think about this." Or is it feeling bad because my nervous system is matching it to a pattern from when I was 6 and I was told I wasn't good enough? And sometimes we get stuck with that, don't we? And we can't find a way to, especially with pricing, I think is a big thing, with expressing, with actually being visible for starters
Yeah,
and pricing. So actually sharing your gifts is one and pricing them accordingly is probably the second, the big one, where you can't work out sometimes because there's an old program running in the background that tells you you're not really good enough, you shouldn't really be doing that, you're a bad person if you charge for these kind of things. So when you can do that inner work and you can get through that, I think then you sharpen and you refine your intuition and your discernment. And for me, it's like a bit of a dial. I mean, energy is my first language, so I've been working with energy since I was a child. So I feel like it, it, I make it sound easier than it is, but it takes a while to kind of get used to. I can tell the difference now between what's energetically aligned. There's a different feeling in my body with something that's a red flag or a green flag energetically, and I have to think about it, or if something's a red flag or a green flag from a trauma. If I'm about to do something chaotic and crazy and it's going to send me to burnout, but it feels like a green flag because it's exciting and my adrenaline's going, do it. I've got that kind of skill now. I'm working on it every day where I can spot the difference between that and true alignment. And the same the other way, if something feels fear or icky or not very nice, there's a subtle difference energetically. If it's my intuition saying that's not for you, it's not the space, it's just don't do that. Or is it a trauma response, an old wound that's going, no, it's not safe? And you have to constantly do that work. I'll never stop. There's no point that I will be able to complete that. You have to constantly do that inner work and reflect and refine and test things out and experiment. But there is a difference. You will start to spot it. If you do the work, you will start to be able to know the difference.
100%. But I think that comes with time and with experience. Um,
Yeah.
Also, as we move through life, we experience different things. We go through different stages. Um, I learned new things, in this stage of my life, and I'm sure I'm gonna learn so much more one day, especially if I go through motherhood. There's so many things that comes with life. So many things you learn along the way, new challenges. As we talked about the spiral, okay, maybe you thought you worked on it, and then in the day or two, something comes and triggers you all over again. You're like, oh, I thought I'd move on for that, but it's a new layer. And it doesn't stop until we die. It doesn't stop, and I think it doesn't stop even after we die. But that's another topic.
I agree. I agree. And I think that if one because we'll wind up soon because we could talk forever. And I think, oh, we've been on for ages. So we'll kind of circle
Yeah.
it back. But I think that's a really good way to kind of start to bring us towards a close that if you can have that level of acceptance, that it will always be a thing. People chase this end goal where they go across the finish line and they never need to do any more inner work. I think that's the danger. I think when people can accept,
100%.
actually, this is just life. It's just life and it's amazing. And I'm just going to build myself some tools and I'm going to connect with people who I feel aligned with and I'm going to enjoy the process. And I'm aware that things will always come and kick me in the bum sometimes, and that's okay as well. For me, understanding that stopped that performative, I need to reach this level, I need to reach this medal that I'm going to win or this guru status to say that I've done it. When I learned to accept and release that, that's when I started to really live and enjoy life because it's okay. Everything's fine. It will, what is for you will find you, whether it's an amazing experience or an uncomfortable experience. Because I don't say, good and bad for me, bad things. I'm trying to not use that language so much because it's just all experiences, right? So some feel pleasant in the body, some feel unpleasant, but they're all just experiences. So being able to accept that's going to be until I transition on to wherever I'm going next it's going to be happening. So I'm just going to embrace the whole thing and yeah, and just enjoy the process, I think. Now, was there any other subject before we sign ourselves off? Is there anything else that you think we might have missed?
I think we covered a lot of things. I think maybe I think it would be nice if both of us can send like a final message to the listeners,
Yeah.
something they can take away from this conversation. But I think we covered a lot of things and it will be very interesting for both professionals, but also people who are just interested in the healing space and they're looking for help and for guidance.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So I think would you like to go first? If you can, and I just was looking over our notes, thinking about maybe just a couple of things to round up on. What do you want people to take away from this conversation? And I always ask my guests on my podcast, because my podcast is called The Art of Feeling Better. So even though my big body of work is Mojo School, where all my learnings and coaching and teachings are, I just wanted the podcast to be about the art of feeling better. How can you just feel better wherever you're at right now? What can you do to feel a little bit better? Because that's what we're all chasing, right? We just want to feel better. So I always ask my guests, what's one small thing that they can do? And we have that on our notes. If you're feeling overwhelmed, what could you do now just to help yourself start the process? So that's my question to you to finish is, what do you hope people will take away from this conversation? And maybe one small thing that you can share that works for you that people might be able to try to feel better.
One thing that I hope, first I will start with the first one. One thing I hope that people would get out of this conversation is that they shouldn't be scared to explore and to try different things, different techniques, different healers. The right ones will find them on the way. They will know with their body what feels good and what doesn't. Just to be mindful, spot those red flags when they see them and avoid, and everything will be okay. And don't stop. And just know that the healing is not linear, and healing it's not ending destination. It's something that is ongoing through your whole life. It will never stop. You just get better at it. You learn that you build your system is something we didn't mention, but it's very important. Once we go through that exploration phase, we see what works, what doesn't, then those tools, practices, we put them in a nice system that support us throughout our life. And then life becomes also much easier. And now for feeling better, my suggestion would be reconnecting with the inner child, with the inner you. Could be a small moment. It could be something that you used to love doing as a child. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, anything complicated. If you loved painting, maybe, or anything else you really enjoyed as a child, just arrange to do that activity and bring in that inner child. But you can feel it in your chest that it's with you. You can do like a little visualization that you're doing this thing that you love. I think this will really help with reconnecting with yourself and give you that little moment of peace and joy and reconnection. Also, it's very simple, touch grass. I think this is also something like just there was this quote that I saw recently. You have to connect with bigger things, or you end up thinking you're the biggest thing. And this is where depression, misery really kicks in. As long as you find what makes you feel connected to the world and makes you feel smaller, like I think this is something you definitely have to do, like go in nature, swim in the ocean if you have ocean nearby. I'll be very jealous if you have. That's amazing. Just reconnect with nature. If you're religious, if you're a believer, reconnect with your faith. Um, it's just like connect with something that you feel like is bigger than you. That's it.
Oh, that is beautiful. Do you know, I could not have put that better myself. I'm gonna have to really dig deep to find something to add to that because that's exactly what it is. It's that sense of, um, finding your identity and your purpose, and you can't do that until you understand something bigger than self, something else, and then it really gives you a different perspective. I think for me, I think exactly what you said, just being able to explore and find your people and find your tools and know that you're not on your own. And you said it beautifully. It will get better. It will get better. You will feel differently. You might not think that now, but you most certainly will. And I think just to add a layer, because it's something that I've been doing a lot of recently, around when you finally get to set your boundaries, which is a big one, and we've kind of mentioned it briefly. I know it's in our notes list, but it changes the game completely. And I think for a lot of people, especially women, but not just women, because I know our audience is quite broad, but you can't set boundaries until you know who you are. And that's quite a scary thing when you have just been your labels forever, a daughter, a sister, a mother, a friend, a son, a cousin, whatever your job role is, maybe you're a parent. When you have just been your labels, it's quite a scary concept to try and figure out who you are. And people tend to run from that and avoid that. But you cannot put any boundaries in place if you don't know what lights you up or what makes you sad. Or so you have to really do that exploration work to try and figure out the things you like, the things you don't like when you're not performative, when you're not sacrificing yourself for other people's needs.
Yes.
What is it that really brings you joy? If you're honest with yourself and you're not saying, well, I should do this, or I'm supposed to do this, or this is my label, or this is my role, and I have to make sure I do it because I'm not safe if I don't. If you can suspend that and just think, if I had a blank piece of paper and I was completely safe, and there was no judgment, there was, unlimited resources. What is it that I would, that is me at my soul, at my core? What lights me up? What makes me happy? What do I feel uncomfortable with and actually makes me sad? Once you can label a few of those things, then you can look at your core values that help you build boundaries. Because I see a lot of people that trying to do boundary work because they hear it, set good boundaries. And they set boundaries on what they think they're meant to do. Like, what boundary do you want me to put into place? And they'll go through a tick list of the kind of boundaries, but it's not them. So you have to do that. And everything else will start to fall into place from that point. So I think that's a really good thing for people to take away and just consider, think about. And I agree, touch grass. My one thing that I was going to say is just to feel better. Learn to breathe. If you can, just explore different kinds of breath work, different practitioners, different tools. There's loads of resources on YouTube, on Human Healing Hub, I've got some on Mojo School. Find out what works for you. One breath technique can make all the difference. Go outside, find some nature and breathe in it and just notice the difference. If you can touch the grass, get your bare feet on it, even better. But those two free tools, free things, can really make a difference to your nervous system. And then it's one tool already in your toolbox then that will help resource you before you even think about anything else. So I think that for me would be my go-to quick starting point for people. But yeah, I think there's so much conversation that we could have. And I think maybe we'll jump on and do another one at some point and we can go deeper
100%.
a specific topic. So if any of our listeners on both platforms want to hear, anything or want some information or want to hear another conversation, I'm more than happy to take some guidance on the kind of topics you'd like us to explore. And I would, I'm going to let you do some final words in a sec, Liann, but I just would encourage anybody to go and just check out Healing Hub. I've already done a little intro before you came on, so I'm going to put some links in so you can go and explore. Same with Mojo School. Have a look at the free resources, see if it resonates, I'm going to be doing some workshops. We're going to be planning that in for the Human Healing Hub. We're going to do a little online workshop. We do some territory mapping and some medicine wheel bits and bobs. I've got some free resources coming up as well. So just explore and see, see what works for you and take what you can. And hopefully we'll have some more rich conversations and it's going to all explode and grow and you're going to have some amazing people and some great conversations, I think.
Thank you so much, Jane. I'm very happy first that we had the chance to meet in the first place, that you will be working together. I'm very excited for all the amazing things we're going to do. Courses, workshops. I'm very, very excited for those. And I'm sure that listeners are as well. I hope everybody gets to manage to get something for themselves, some that they learn something new or like reconfirm something that they weren't sure about. And I believe that this podcast will definitely find the right people. And yeah, so thank you so much, Jane, for having this conversation today. I'm very happy that we managed to connect and organize it. I'm very much looking forward to the next time we talk again.
Yeah, same to you. Thank you so much for joining me today. Yeah, here's to the next conversation.